Hello everyone, welcome to Photosyntax. Today we are doing an interview with JD Allred. He is an artisan pipe maker, makes some really cool products. JD, welcome. Thank you for joining us today on the show.
Thanks, Matt. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it.
And, we're going to sit here and have a conversation today, talk a little bit about your craft, about the pipes that you make, your process, and I got a few other questions, of course, as we go. So that being said, sir, let's kind of swap her over to the gallery view here. How's it going today?
It's going great. I love it. How about you?
Oh, it's not too bad. We're mid-October here up in the Great White North, so that means snow on the ground already. Not the greatest thing, but it is what it is.
Well, we've got the fall weather down here in the States right now, so.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you located, sir?
Pardon me?
I say, whereabouts are you located?
Oh, I'm located in Utah.
Ah, Utah. I've been down to Utah before. Nice part of the country. Definitely some interesting terrain around those parts. Absolutely. All right, well, let's get into it. Of course, today we're talking about your craft, that being artisan pipes. From what I've read on your website, you are a self-taught artisan pipe maker. What drew you into this craft?
Well, I think for me, I've always been a bit of a weekend artist. I think I've dabbled in, I used to do a lot of pencil drawings. I was into oil painting for a while, airbrushing for a while. So I think for the most of my life, I've been a bit of a weekend artist. Always was drawn to it. But about 4 years ago, and I'm a smoker, about 4 years ago, I was smoking from, I like pipes, and I was smoking from glass pipes back then. And I kept having problems with it. They seemed difficult to clean. I would try to clean them, fish things in there to try to get them cleaned out, and I'd drop them and break them. So I just thought for fun, I'd try looking at making my own wood type pipe. Now at first, when I started first making them, I started realizing that wood pipes don't work really well, at least the traditional style of a wood pipe.
Right.
They clog really easy and they get dirty. So the first couple of experiments didn't work out too well. But I got to thinking, I said, why do the glass pipes work so well? And it occurred to me that's because they're hollow. That hollowness kind of acts like a chamber inside, and it collects all that resin and it makes it so it doesn't clog as well. So once I figured that out, in traditional pipes, they have what's called a calabash. And a calabash basically is where there's a chamber in the middle. A calabash is kind of like the old Sherlock Holmes pipe. It's usually made out of a gourd, but there's a pipe that bowl comes off, and there's an interior chamber that allows the smoke to cool. There's something called a reverse calabash where the chamber's in the shank. Well, if I applied that to the pipes I was making, that would serve like that purpose for the hollow. And once I started making them like that, it was a world of difference. And that was kind of the main thing that got me going. And once I started going that, and then it was just so much fun to start making them. I was making them for myself and my friends. And again, that was about 4 years ago. So as the pipes started adding up and getting into hundreds of pipes,
right,
and so many friends I can give them away to and family. So here I am today, saying, see if I can make other people see them and see how they like them.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. The pipes that you make, sir, are absolutely gorgeous pieces. In crafting these unique designs, where do you take inspiration from?
Well, when I first got started, a lot of it was just from your traditional pipe makers. There's some great pipe makers out there that are just really amazingly talented. But one in particular is a Russian pipe maker. Well, he lives in the States now. He immigrated, but his name is Floro. And what was inspiring to me about him was, you have your traditional tobacco shapes. You have your brandy, billiard, poker pipes. And a lot of pipe makers make those designs perfectly. And they have very standards, the ratio between the shank length and the bowl height, things like that. So they make those classic shapes perfectly. But Alex is one of these kind of pipe makers who likes to be more freehand, and he has some just amazing designs that just really inspired me. And that's what kind of, I think, where I started going is, I don't have to stay within these lines. I can start branching out, and that's where the Wizard Rook pipe that I make comes from. And some of the other designs I've made, it's just saying, well, as long as I have the functioning of the pipe work, I have those main components, the burn chamber, the calabash chamber, and the air holes, and they all line up okay, I can do anything. I can go outside those lines and make some really creative designs. So I think most of my inspiration comes from, well, initially comes from just the great masters, pipe makers who make those traditional pipes.
Mm-hmm.
But then from there, the lesson I think I learned from Alex Floro is just that you don't have to stay in the lines. You can just kind of start letting your imagination go crazy. So as you see, I do a lot of drawing, and I'm drawing and designing pipes all the time and trying to see what works, because I do it on paper first so I can make sure it's going to work. The air holes line up, everything's going to work. So it's one of those measure twice or measure 100 times and cut once kind of a thing.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think that's where I'm at right now, is just kind of trying to see where my imagination, how far it can go, while I can still maintain the functionality of the pipes.
So you've touched on a couple of components here, terms like shank, calabash. Could you go over the different components of the pipe and how they fit together?
Let me get kind of one of my misfit pipes up here. And so this is your kind of a standard shape. It's what's called a Dublin. But in this case, this would be a reverse calabash in traditional pipe terms, because there's a chamber in the shank. And then, can you see this okay? Mike got the position right?
Yeah, we're getting you.
So this is where, the smoke will go into. It'll cool a little bit, and it collects all the resin so it doesn't clog. Then you have the bowl and, of course, the stem. So all my pipes will have that. We'll have this. Here's one that I've just finished. It's a Wizard's Rook. It's got a real dark mahogany finish and a really long green marble type stem. And in this case, the chamber is underneath the bowl. So all my pipes will have a nice big chamber in there. And typically, the larger the chamber, the more room you'll have to collect resin, and the more room for the smoke to cool. So, but it doesn't mean that these smaller chambers don't smoke well too. I think those are the basic components. We've got the burn bowl, the interior calabash chamber, and then of course the shank. This would be the shank, and then this is the stem, of course. Now this is one of my best designs as far as functionality too, as well as looks, because it's just, functionality. You can, in this case, the chamber port, I call it, or the carb, some people call it, or choke, is on the right side. And it seems to me that a lot of the commercially made pipes that come out, that chamber port's usually on the left side, which has always worked well for me because I'm a left-handed smoker. I can operate the port with my fingers instead of my thumb. And I'm not trying to hold it with my thumb and operate the carb. So in this particular pipe, I've got it on the right side, which I believe will work well for right-hand smokers, because I'm going to try to look like I'm smoking right-handed here. You can operate it with your finger, and it's just as easy. You don't have to use your mouth to partly hold it. It's just really easy to operate and hold. And another good aspect about this design is it sits so well. It's just so solid. So this is one of my favorite designs so far. Very,
very neat, and definitely has that wizard look to it.
It does, and that seems to be popular. So
when we talk about your process, could you give me a high-level overview of how you actually go about starting with your design and eventually end up with that finished pipe?
Yeah, you bet. Like I said earlier, it all starts on paper first. Here's an example of when I kind of want to make this one. I don't know how well this is going to show up, but I learned that in drawing it that the airlines just don't line up that well. So I'm going to have to redesign it. But they all start on paper. Then I'll get a block. This is briar wood. This is a large block of briar. Once I have the image done, I'll transfer it to the briar. And it's just, what I'll do is I'll typically trace. I have these little templates that I'll trace my drawing and then trace it onto the block. Cut out the block on the bandsaw. Once it's all cut out on the block on the bandsaw, it looks something like this. Just a squared out block shape. And then I'll start turning. So I'll turn the things I can. And this is one I'm working on right now. It's going to be a Cavalier Bloom. And as you can see, it started out just the block, but I've started to turn the end. So I've got the shank face turned where the stem is going to fit in right here. And then I've got the chamber. This is going to be a base chamber. So there's a big chamber at the bottom, and it's got the cap right here. After this, after I've got the parts I can turn, and I'll be drilling the bowl right there. After I've got it all turned, then I start the hand shaping. So maybe something like this. So I've got the I've got the chamber turned. I've got the bowl turned. This one is almost all hand shaped. So, from the hand shaping, I use a disc sander. I use a French wheel on the lathe, or I have an actual disc sander here on the shelf that helps. From there, that gets me kind of roughed in shape-wise. Then I go to the downdraft table where I have a Dremel and a bunch of different files, and that'll help me get it even more refined. So as I'm getting it down closer to the shape I want, like this little Rose Cavalier, I get it down to about a 400 grit level of sandpaper. And once it's that smooth, then I'll dye the whole thing black. And what that does is, so once it's black and it's dried and I sand it all back down again, a lot of that dye will stick with some of the grain, some of the deeper parts of the grain. So it helps pop that out a lot more. So like this finished Rook, you probably can't see it real close in the camera, but when you look maybe in the pictures I've got posted, you can see that grain really just pops out a lot. And
pulls that fine detail out, looks really sharp.
Once I have it all sanded down and almost all that black is off, then I pick the color I want. I'll put a light coat of shellac. Now shellac, I use the shellac flakes, and then I dissolve them in denatured alcohol, and then I cut it even more. So it's a really, really super thin coat of shellac that I put on there, and then it just gets thinner and thinner towards practically all denatured alcohol, and that helps smooth that out, keeps it really thin. Once that's dry, we're buffing, and then we're adding the stem, and then we're taking pictures of it. Now the stems are mostly made out of, well, I've got ebonite, big pieces like this for like things like the base. We got acrylic, different types of acrylic, all kinds of different colors of acrylic. But what I use a lot are these pin blanks. There's a lot of people get into the hobby of turning pins and making pins, and they use these pin blanks for that. And there's a lot of really pretty acrylic patterns for just these pin blanks.
Oh, those are really neat.
Slap in the lathe, get them turned around. And while it's on the lathe, I get a lot of questions about this and how we get the bend in that stem with the turn, with the air hole through it.
Yeah, that is curious.
And it's all round. I'll drill it on the lathe. I have a really long tapered bit. I drill it on the lathe. I'll get it shaped. I'll take it off the lathe, start flattening out the ends. And then once I get it pretty well shaped, I'll heat it up with a heat gun, and then get that bend. Once it cools up, it's hard again. It's got the nice bend in it, and then I'll do all the fine shaping. So that's basically the process. Let me think if I missed anything else. And of course, I put my stamp on it and the numbers. But I tell you, sometimes that's the most stressful part of the whole thing, because here I have a completely done pipe, and now I got one shot to get a stamp on there, and it's just a tiny little metal stamp, and I'm trying to look really close, and those little numbers, if it's just off just a little bit, it's practically at a 45-degree angle. So that is a really frustrating part. I've spent better part of a week making this pipe, and now I'm going to stamp it, and you only got one shot on it. It's a really small thing. So I'm still trying to get my stamping down pat, but that's one of the most stressful things of the pipe.
Always going to be something, isn't there? Just absolutely fascinating. So if somebody was looking to get into this craft, JD, what would be the best place to start? Where would they want to start spending their money?
Well, when I first got started, the first thing I bought was just a little benchtop wood lathe. And I got it, I don't know how you got them up there, but I got it at Harbor Freight. I think it was around $200 for a little 10 by 18 inch wood lathe. I already had an old bandsaw. So I think if you get started with the lathe, the reason why the lathe is a good tool to get started with is it does a lot of things. It does your turning, of course. You can do your drilling like I just described. You can also put a sanding disc or a French wheel on the headstock, and you got your disc sander. And then when you're ready to buff, you can put a buffing wheel on that headstock, and you can buff. So it's a really versatile tool. It's a good one to have. So if you have a bandsaw to cut your blocks, and you have a lathe to get your holes drilled and your air holes drilled out. And the other thing I think would help as far as the final shaping is to have a Dremel tool, the rotary tool. Those work really well. Different bits for that. They'll help get that hand shaping down even further. Then it's a bunch of good files, and using them so you can get the effects you want. Once you get the shape down fine, then it's just a matter of sanding it. But I would say the three main things you would need to have is a bandsaw if you can get your hands on one, a good wood lathe, a Dremel tool, and some good files. I think that's where you can start. Once you have those things, I think you're on your way. After that, you can get things like a drill press, a metal lathe like I have back here behind me, which works really well. for when you're making those really precise turns, like the tenons, the tenons that need to fit really, really good in these holes. They have to fit precisely so they're nice and tight and they don't get loose and fall out. So yeah, I think after a while you can just always build more to it. You know, you'll need a grinder wheel eventually to sharpen your tools. Drill press is handy. I got a 1-inch belt sander that comes in handy sometimes, but I think if you start with the lathe and bandsaw and rotary tool and some files, you'll be on your way.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And definitely there's always going to be one more tool to buy for the show.
No, there's one more tool. I mean, this little metal lathe I got, I right now I'm kind of frustrated. I want to get one a little bit bigger. And I should have listened to the forums. All the pipe makers were saying, if you want to get a metal lathe, get bigger than what you think you need. Well, they were right, and I should have done that. But this little metal lathe, it's from, I can't remember where I got it from, but I've had it for a couple of years, and it's been a pretty good lathe for me. And it's a good starter lathe, so I don't have any regrets.
Right on, right on. Now, talking more about the actual wood you use, are there certain properties unique to the woods that you choose that make them more suitable for pipes? And as a follow-up to that, do you have favorite types of wood that you like to work with?
Briar, 100% briar. Briarwood is almost exclusively used for pipe making, and I would think that that most of your traditional pipe makers, briar is probably 90% of your wood pipes. Now you do have olive wood is another wood I'll use. It makes a really nice pipe, but I'll probably use briar 90% of the time. And I'll make an olive wood pipe maybe 1 out of every 20 pipes. So that's the only 2 woods I use for now. Now the other pipe makers do also use a wood called morta, which that's the only wood that's not really harvested. It's mined because it's partially fossilized bog oak. So they have to find it. It's thousands of years old. And so it's really, really, really super hard wood. It's black. That's one I may be interested in trying soon, but I haven't tried it yet. So for me, it's briar. Now there's different kinds of briar. There's Italian briar from Greece. It's generally grown in the Mediterranean. It's a root burl, by the way. It's not part of the tree. It's a root burl. It's underground, and it's about the size of a basketball, depending, and smaller. And you have it in different areas. So your Italian briar is going to be a little bit lighter, a little bit finer grain. I like the Grecian briar. It has some really amazing grain patterns that work really well for my design. So a lot of times, and plus I get them in these really big blocks. A lot of times the Italian briar comes in a little bit smaller blocks, but no, they're great for like smaller pipe designs like the blowfish or a poker or a brandy. They work great for that because the grain is really nice and tight. But mostly, like I said, mostly I'm using briar, occasionally olive wood.
Very interesting. So these specialized woods, where do you source them from?
There's a couple places here in the States, guys that sell them online. They're also other fellow pipe makers. There's a guy, Steve Norris. He runs a site called VermontFreehand.com, VermontFreehand.com. I get a lot of supplies from him, the briar, and he's got, books, instructions. He's got tools, some of the tools that are specific to pipe making. For example, on the wood lathe, you need to get you a Nova chuck, which is pretty universal, but you're not going to find the block jaws that you see in some of my pictures anywhere that I've seen, anywhere other than a pipe making supply site. So he's got the jaws there. So I got the jaws for my Nova chuck that holds these blocks like this. Another place is a place called rawcrafted.com. He's another pipe maker. He's got great supplies. So those are the 2 main sources where I get my specific pipe making supplies from. Sandpaper, stuff like that, I just go wherever. But as far as the briar wood that's specific to pipe making, some of the acrylic and the tools, some of the specialized tools like the block jaws, the tapered bits, some files I get from him. So if someone's starting out in this, I would suggest they check out VermontFreehand.com or rawcrafted.com or both. There's also a lot of information you can get online. One of the sites I was probably living in practically when I was first trying to learn this was a site called Pipe Makers Forum. And it's just information. And all you have are all these professional pipe makers getting on there talking about how you make pipes and things, how different techniques and how you can get the finishes and the colors you want. It's just and they've been on there for, 10 years at least, I think, if not longer. So if you can find it, there's just a ton of information in there. You just have to look in there as far as how you cut your mortise, neat ways to to drill them out, and just all these different techniques. So I learned a lot from pipemakersforum.com. But as far as supplies go, the two places that I know of, you can get them on Amazon and things like that, but I haven't really found those to be too reliable. But the guys who make pipes, the fellow pipe makers, and they also sell supplies, they know what they're selling. I like those two sites, VermontFreehand.com and RawCrafted.com.
Very, very cool. Well, definitely head on over there if you're looking to get into the craft. So, a bit of a different question. JD, how are people using their pipes wrong?
I touched on it earlier. The only thing I've noticed that I think, to me, is that chamber port placement. Like I said, I think the industry, when they started coming out with these kind of pipes, they always put that chamber port or the choke or the carb on the left side. And like I said, that's always been great for me. I'm a lefter, so I can. Let's see. Do I have any left-handed pipes up here? Here's one. It's easy for me to. This is kind of a really funky design too. I like, but it's easy for me to control the carb with my fingers instead of my thumb. So I would say that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is if you're a right-handed smoker, try a pipe with the right-sided choke or carb or chamber port, and I bet you won't want to go back to a left-sided pipe again.
Excellent tip. So, talking about the different types of woods, of course, you already mentioned you use briar. Now, the resins themselves, these pen, I guess, blanks. Do you have favorite combinations that you like to use?
You know what? There are some good combinations. Typically, if I'm going with something a little bit more wizardy or fantasy-like with the purples and the oranges and the pinks, the brighter colors, I'll go with a lighter color wood. So I may use a strawberry briar, and then I'll use a lighter dye. And by the way, as far as the coloring goes, I should tell you, I use this Friedman's leather dye. It works great, and it's alcohol-based. And the reason why pipe makers use alcohol-based dyes is so it doesn't penetrate too deeply into the wood. If it's water-based, it goes much deeper, and it can get into your bowl chamber or your calabash chamber, and you don't really want that. So the alcohol-based dyes don't go too deep, and they make an amazing color. So that's how we do the color. So if I'm making like the brighter colors, the pinks, the purples, I'll typically have a lighter color dye. If it's the more of a maybe more of a distinguished and sophisticated look, I'll make it like this one. This is one of my favorite combinations. It's a dark mahogany color.
Oh, it's beautiful.
With a dark green marble. So it's kind of a subtle. It's distinguished and sophisticated. Whereas the other side, you get these bright, flashy colors. They're pretty too, but I typically want to go with a lighter color dye on those. So those are the kind of combinations I stick with.
Right on. So using the pipe itself, lighter, match, hemp wick, something else? What do you prefer?
I just use the Bic.
Good old Bic.
Simple kind of guy. I'm not even sure, but I may not be up to date on a lot of these things, but I've never tried a hemp wick.
Something I've recently learned of using just naturally made from hemp itself, lighting a candle and then just lighting your hemp wick as required. Maybe a little more environmentally friendly than
I guess I'm pretty simple in that regard. The Bic is fine for me.
Absolutely. So JD, as we come to the end here, I guess one more question for you, sir. What's next? Any big projects on the horizon? Any new things that you're looking to try out?
Well, now that I think last year or so, I'm really finding my groove. I got the functionality and the craftsmanship down pat. What I'm doing now is I'm trying to branch out in the imagination and seeing how far we can go. Like my mentor and my hero, Alex Floro, see if I can even come close to some of those crazy designs he makes. I have to keep in mind, my pipe's a little bit different than Alex's because they're a little different. Like one thing I should probably point out is some of the differences with the bowl. A typical traditional pipe will have a much deeper bowl, inch and a half deep. Of course, these bowls are a little bit shallow. We don't smoke as much with this, and it's cone shaped. So that's kind of where I'm going. I want to just see how far I can go with my imagination. Another thing I have an idea is some kind of matching sets. I have the idea of maybe making different type of pipes that go well together for people who want to have options of more than one pipe and have them matching. Another thing I have an idea of, all my pipes, I'll send one of these little basic pipe cleaning tools with, and they work great. As far as cleaning goes, these things are really easy to clean because as far as normal use, all I ever do is I just bore this drought hole, and you can keep smoking. And that's all you really need to do, because that interior chamber just collects all that resin. Maybe once every couple of months or so, I'll open it up, and then I'll use the shovel part of this tool to scoop everything out, use a few pipe cleaners to clean out the air holes, and it's ready to go again for another couple of months. So the cleaning is really simple on these. So matching sets, but what I want to do with these cleaning tools is I was thinking about making, like say if I, with this pipe, was making a matching cleaning tool. So I would have this green acrylic on a rod with the bore rod coming out on one side and maybe the spoon handle on the other. So I'd make a matching cleaning tool that would go with the pipes. That's kind of on the horizon too. You may see some pipes coming out that have a matching cleaning tool. Rather than one of these, you have one that actually matches your pipe. So that might be kind of cool too. So
yeah, that would be really cool.
The future is more like just expanding the designs as far as the imagination of the designs. Maybe come up some matching sets and then a matching kind of a cleaning tool. I think might look kind of cool. So that's where I'm going so far.
Very, very cool, and definitely interesting. I really like that idea of having the matching set. JD, thank you so much.
Another thing I want to do is I've been getting a lot of requests for making a full build video. So I'll probably get that done too and posted. But that's been challenging in itself, because it's 24, 30 hours of work that I'm trying to, and it's sometimes it's just a second here, a second there, 3 seconds over here. So, and resetting up the camera everywhere I go, that's becoming more of a challenge. So I do hope to get a full-length video, time lapse, of course, so it's not going to be 30 hours long, but it'll be maybe 10 minutes of a build from beginning to end. That's another thing I plan on doing coming up soon.
Well, we would definitely look forward to watching that, and I know I would, and can absolutely appreciate the level of effort that it takes. Yeah. Well, sir, I definitely thank you so much for joining us today. Last thing, how do we find you online? I'm
at jdallredpipes.com. Really easy. I'm also on Instagram at jdallredpipes. In fact, this pipe right now that I've been showing is actually got an auction going on right now on my Instagram account. So I'm wondering how it's going so far.
I imagine quite well. JD, again, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming on the channel and talking about your awesome artisan pipes. And viewers, head on over to JD's website and maybe you can purchase one for yourself. Otherwise, I'm Matt, and this is Photosyntech. Thank you so much for joining us today, folks.
Thanks, Matt.